Hello, everyone, and welcome to Walking Through the Bible. Fearing God does not bring with it the guarantee of a long life here on this earth, but it doesn't hurt the cause either. Involving oneself with drugs, alcohol, and many sexual partners can lead to disease and premature death. Those who live with hatred in their hearts often resort to violence and die by violent means. Those who lie can wind up in prison and die in prison with a much shorter lifespan than they otherwise might have had. David in Psalm 55 is facing open rebellion from Absalom, a man being advised by a close advisor to him, Ahithophel. For a time this rebellion was successful, but in the end it failed. Why did it fail? Let's find out. So if you have a Bible with you, you can turn to the book of Psalms, to Psalm 55. We're going to be reading from verses 16 to 23. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Psalm 55, beginning at verse 16. To the chief musician with stringed instruments, a contemplation of David. As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Evening and morning and at noon I will pray and cry aloud, and he shall hear my voice. He has redeemed my soul in peace from the battle that was against me, for there were many against me. God will hear and afflict them, even he who abides from of old. Because they do not change, therefore they do not fear God. He has put forth his hands against those who are at peace with him. He has broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. Cast your burden on the Lord, and he shall sustain you. He shall never permit the righteous to be moved. But you, O God, shall bring them down to the pit of destruction. Bloodthirsty and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in you. David has been pouring out his heart to God, telling God the fear that is in his heart due to the treachery of Absalom and Ahithophel. Remember, though, that David is an older man by this point. He is not the young, nimble man who slayed Goliath along with his 10,000s. He is much closer to the frail man that we meet at the beginning of 1 Kings than he is the young shepherd boy that we met in 1 Samuel. David knows that he is being punished by God, and yet, even with that being true, David still says in verse 16 that he will call upon the Lord and trusted that the Lord would save him. He would pray evening and morning and at noon, and was confident that the Lord would hear his voice. He sees God has been redeeming or delivering his soul in peace from the battle that was against him and the many people who were against him. Had God promised this to David directly? Not at that time. However, God had made messianic promises to him of a son who would sit on his throne, and although Absalom could be a fulfillment of that promise, David was confident that Absalom would not be the fulfillment, and that Solomon would be the one who would come after him. David was thus confident that the one who abides or is enthroned from of old, that is Jehovah himself, would hear the prayers of the afflicted and would in turn repay that affliction on those who did David evil. It is here that you get the Selah, the pause, likely meant for adoration of the great and eternal King enthroned in all his glory. But why would God do this? Because the wicked do not change. They do not fear God. In particular, in this case, Ahithophel had put forth his hands against David, a man that he had been at peace with and had broken his covenant with him by siding with Absalom. Being a trusted advisor, Ahithophel had a way with words, a certain eloquence, so that his words were smoother than butter. However, war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, but they were drawn with drawn swords. In order for Ahithophel's treachery to work, he couldn't come out too soon on Absalom's side. For recall, Absalom stole the hearts of the people over time, not in just a day. He would have to assure David of his loyalty while at the same time working behind David's back and with Absalom. And it obviously worked, for it wasn't until David fled the city that someone came to David in 2 Samuel 15:31 and said that Ahithophel was among the conspirators. This news obviously hurt David, as we saw with his words in that chapter, but they are continued here. All of this was a burden that David must bear, but with the Lord he could bear it and be sustained. With the Lord he would not be moved from his righteousness, for God will uphold the faithful by his mighty hand. As for the wicked, the ones who do not fear God, what will their end be? David says here that their end will be being brought down to the pit of destruction, death, and that they wouldn't even live out half their days. Now it should be noted that David is speaking specifically here about Absalom and Ahithophel, something that did happen. However, it could be said more generally too, like we said at the top. The wicked tend to live shorter lives, though this isn't always true. Ultimately, though, for the wicked who do live long lives, their judgment will come. It will be final judgment, though, when they will face eternal punishment away from the presence of God. It should also be noted that by saying that these wicked men will not live out half their days, doesn't mean that God has set an exact number of days we will live on this earth as if the future is already written. Later on in Psalms 90, we're going to find a general principle that men and women live to be about 70 to 80 years old. Thus, David is speaking poetically here to say that they will live shorter lives than that. Nothing more and nothing less. David trusted in the Lord to do good and be righteous, something Christians can trust in today as well. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Psalm 56, verses 1 to 13, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time.
We thank you for watching Walking Through the Bible today. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them below. But if you like this video, we ask that you consider subscribing to our channel so you won't miss out on other videos in our series, as well as share this video among your friends so that the saving message of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.